Hi everybody and welcome to Smack Talk. My name is Rich and my guests this week are joining me all the way from the Savage Garden. It's Davey Vega and Matt Fitchett, otherwise known as the Besties in the World. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm struggling, man. I got a bit of a sore throat from last week's episode. Had a bit of a run-in with Dave Conrad. I asked a dangerous question. I led him down the wrong path, shall we say, and reaped the consequences of what I sowed. So obviously this week we're going to be a little bit more tame with the questions. I hope you guys don't mind.
Oh, no worries. You sound a bit raspy, so.
Yeah, I'm doing my best, man. We fight through, you know. But you guys know all about fighting through. And I had the privilege of watching you both compete at Rev Pro High Stakes 2019, which was a couple of months ago now. You were in a tag team match against Team White Wolf. I've got to say, it was an absolute show stealer.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. I know it was pretty well received, and a couple people came up to us and said it was their match of the night. So that's always that's always a good compliment and always a little feather in our cap when that happens.
Oh yeah, I can completely understand that, and I think I said to you myself how amazing that match was, and obviously it culminated in a standing ovation from everyone in attendance. I think universally it was loved by the fans. Obviously, despite being on the losing end of the result, I mean, how did that response feel to you both to see like a crowd on its feet clapping and cheering your efforts?
Pretty awesome. I mean, that building's even pretty historic, and just to be in there was really exciting. And then at the end of it, getting the reception that we did was overwhelming, but it was cool.
Yeah, and it's always nice, like Fitchett said, that building's pretty historic. So being able to wrestle there was awesome, and then having a good match, and then the fans giving us a standing ovation, and then some people coming up to us saying that it was their match of the night. Like, it's a bit overwhelming, but it's very welcome, especially since we've been wanting to come back to England since we left back over the summer, and it was basically a perfect storm that whole night. So it left a pretty lasting impression on us.
I can well imagine. I mean, England, is universally known as having some pretty out there fans, should we say, and we're pretty passionate about our wrestling over here. And not just in terms of like WWE, but more so with independent wrestling. I mean, Impact Wrestling had higher ratings over here than Raw. And you guys actually wrestled for Impact, I believe, last year.
Yeah, back in December, we did one of their Twitch shows that there seems to be popping up more and more. And that we also got pretty decent reception on that as well.
That was it a triple threat tag team match, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was us versus LAX versus the Dirty, Austin Mannix and Brandon Edwards, who actually just had to retire because of a neck injury, which was kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's just awful when that happens. And I mean, how when you've wrestled a team like that and then the next thing you're seeing is that they're retiring, I mean, how do you feel like knowing the style you guys wrestle? Does that change what you do at all, or?
Well, like we've known Brandon for a little bit now, and we've wrestled the team a few times, and we've always had pretty good chemistry with them. But knowing, like, seeing when somebody has to retire, like almost too early too, because he's pretty young. When you see that, it's like it kind of puts. I can't really say. I'm going to say wrestling mortality. Kind of puts it into perspective, because it's like I said, we've probably only known Brandon for about a year, but I know he's been a mainstay around the Ohio and Midwest area for a few years, and just seeing that, like, it can be over that quickly. It kind of puts your own wrestling mortality into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's also there's that well-known saying of, you've only got so many bumps in your body, and obviously, as you said about wrestling mortality, careers are cut short in an instant at times, and I don't know. I don't really know how to even articulate how I feel about seeing a wrestler have to retire like that. It's, as a fan, it's horrendous to see, and I think it just makes it all the more important to go out and support the wrestlers that you love. You know, the teams that you love. You know, as much as you can do. I mean, so to that end, obviously, we'll give those guys a massive shout out and all the best from us at Smack Talk, and you know, hopefully in the future, maybe there'll be a way that he can become back involved with wrestling in some way.
Yeah, it's always. I think even after retirement, I think staying involved with wrestling is on every wrestler's mind. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We are obviously I should point out to those listening, we are joining you guys on the road at the moment. Whereabouts are you heading to?
Yeah, I apologize. We're on the road, and we're actually headed to Chicago.
So are you going back to, is it AAW?
We're actually just heading to Chicago for like some media stuff. Nothing like crazy or anything like that. Just some touching up and whatnot.
Okay, cool. Because obviously, when you wrestled at High Stakes, then I think it was 2 days later you wrestled for OTT in Ireland against Scotty Davis and Will Ospreay. And then
Yes.
Shortly after that, I think it was only a few days again, you flew to Chicago to team with Sami Callihan and Jessica Havoc in an 8-person tag at, as I mentioned, at AAW, Art of War. So just talking about tag team dynamics here, you've obviously, everyone's really familiar with 2-on-2s, but you don't often see 8-person tags. So how different is an 8-person tag to prepare for and compete in as opposed to a regular 2-on-2?
It's very different. They're a little bit tougher. They can become clustered at times, but if you do them right, then they come out great.
So, and by clustered, you mean like when sort of people do a run in, or you know, if, like it all breaks down, as to coin a phrase.
Yeah, when it starts breaking down, then you got everybody in there at once, and you know you're trying to calculate your next move and what you're going to do, and you know it's very easy to get, I guess, confused on what you're going to do next, or you know just kind of jumbled.
Yeah, I kind of liken it to like, it's obviously not as big, but I kind of liken it to like a mosh pit at a like a rock concert. Like, the more people in the middle are in the mosh pit, the higher chances of being trampled increases. So it's kind of like that. So it's like you gotta kind of watch yourself, but also watch your teammates.
That's familiar territory. Been in a few of those mosh pits, man. Oh god. I mean, obviously, if we're going to talk music and mosh pits, your entrance is amazing. And we go back to York Hall just for what an oh my god, what a moment! Like, I never thought that I would join God knows how many people in singing Savage Garden and waving my arms in the air, and then you guys made your entrance, and it was just the most spectacular thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, we're known for the song and dance.
So I mean, how did that come about? Like, obviously, you've been wrestling as the Besties in the World now for, is it nearly 4 years now? I think 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and we can get into it after this, but we went through a couple different name changes before we rested on Besties in the World.
Mm-hmm.
And then as Besties in the World, we kind of went through a couple music changes as well, because it was either one didn't like it and the other did, or it was given to us by a certain company and we both hated it, or we couldn't really like agree on it. And in fact, the Savage Garden one, Truly Madly Deeply, we didn't agree with it at first either.
Really?
And yeah, so I was actually we went. I'll just get into the story. We were on our way to Chicago for AAW, and I was using the bathroom, and the gas station that was there was playing it over the speaker. And I was in the bathroom, and I just tweeted, "Hey, this gas station's playing Truly Madly Deeply by Savage Garden. Haven't heard it in a while. This is pretty awesome." And the AAW booker Danny Daniels tweeted back and was like, "Hey, I bet you won't use it tonight for your entrance. If you do, I'll give you more money."
No way.
And basically I was like, "Well, you're not going to threaten me with more money, so I'm going to do it."
Yeah, right. Oh, I'm going to give you more money if you do this thing that you really like. That's that's a no-brainer.
Right.
My God.
So, I was like, yeah, and Fitchett was like, "I'd never even heard this song," and I was like, "I'm sure you have. Just, we'll just go with it." And I don't remember if I had him listen to it because we were on the road. I don't know if I had him listen to it before we got there or if I just waited for him to hear it when we were getting to the ring.
Yeah, I looked it up on YouTube as soon as he mentioned it, and I thought it was a terrible idea.
So, Fitchett was definitely not on board at first, but I like to think that he's warmed up to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. We didn't have it. It took a while before we even had the dance.
Yeah, because that's like the biggest part of the whole thing is the dance choreography, and like the whole thing just is so different. And I mean, I was there with a couple of my Gaijin Club brothers, and we basically just sat there, looked at each other, and went, "This is the greatest entrance we've ever seen." It was so good, and just soaked it in, man. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I wish we could say it was an overnight thing, but it took us, like I said, it took us a few years to get the music right, and then like it probably took us another year on top of that, maybe to at least have the dance moves.
I think it was about 6 months.
Okay, yeah, I'd say maybe 6 to 10 months afterwards we had the dance moves.
I would say a year into the into the Besties in the World gimmick. For our jackets to come around.
Right.
Oh yeah. 6 to 10 months after we dubbed ourselves the Besties in the World was the theme music, and then we got the jackets probably a year later.
Oh, and the jackets are as big a part of it as well, because it's like there's nothing like a tag team that wears the matching gear and comes out, does the matching entrance, and kind of it solidifies you as a team. You lay out your statement of intent right away, and I think that just makes it more impactful. I mean, just again on the music front, do you find it difficult? Like, if you go to certain countries or certain places, the licensing, like, of the usage of a Savage Garden track? Because I noticed on a couple of your matches when I was doing my research that you didn't use the Savage Garden Truly Madly Deeply intro, and people were actually replying to it, and comments and things saying, "Where's their music? You can't have the Besties without Savage Garden." Like, it just, yeah. It's almost...
I've actually looked into and actually emailed Darren from Savage Garden to see about getting the rights to the music. He's never gotten back to me, but it's still an ongoing process, though. I'm going to find where there's a will, there's a way, and I'm going to find that way to be able to have the rights to that music one way or another.
We got to hook this up. Let's make this happen. If Smack Talk can achieve one thing this year, let's make it that, that you guys get the rights to that song.
Yeah, well, TNA or Impact, they didn't let us. I think they were just testing us, though.
Oh, okay.
They made us change the music, and then I think there was only if you were looking stuff up on YouTube and we didn't come out to that, it was probably like NWL stuff, and they were on TV, so we couldn't use the music then, and they had custom music made for us.
Got it. Okay.
So if we worked for NWL, we couldn't do the whole song and dance for them.
Yeah, I mean, do you find that affects you in any way? Like, obviously, it's so synonymous with you guys, and do you think, do you find not doing that full entrance changes your in-ring performances at all, or?
I definitely think it's a double-edged sword, because one, having the song and dance, obviously that's like one of the best icebreakers whenever we debut somewhere, and then it keeps people I feel like it keeps people attached to us. It gives them something like, man, I really like that song and dance. Can't wait to do it again. Like,
I think it sets the tone.
Yeah, it definitely sets the tone for our matches and for us as people.
But I also look at it like when they tell us that we can't use it, if we can't come out to Savage Garden, I really don't get upset over it. I more or less look at it as a challenge
Mm-hmm.
to be able to figure out a way to have the same icebreaker, or however you want to put it, like first impression, especially if it's a new crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, like, realistically, if we ever did get picked up by Impact, or if we got picked up by WWE or anything like that, like, we obviously can't go there and use that music. So we're gonna have to figure something out, and that's just kind of how I look at it. Is it's a challenge for us, and I try and take full advantage of it and try to think of like different things to come out, some kind of choreographed way to come out to the ring, or however it may be.
So I've got I don't like to use the word genius, but a genius idea for you guys, right? So if you can't use the actual track for whatever reason, karaoke versions are royalty free. They're license free, so you can just use a karaoke version wherever, right? So
Yeah,
if
I've
you
thought of that too before, and
And
just
ha-
come out, do the dance.
but have the lyrics on the screen so the crowd's singing it. But
That's not. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
bad.
that's the because then you get around that kind of licensing issue, and it's pretty fun, especially in Japan. They love karaoke.
Right, and it would just be like reading the intro to Star Wars. So
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
I think there's a loophole too if we were to able to. Like I said, I'm still looking into all of this, but I think there's a couple of loopholes that we can go through if we were able to find a band to cover the song
okay.
and tweak it just a bit, like maybe some of the lyrics.
Mm.
I think that we can use it that way too.
Yeah,
And I also think that there's a loophole to where if we use like a karaoke version where there's no lyrics, but it only has the chorus in there.
yeah,
Because
sure.
that's all we really need is the chorus. And
Mhm.
I think there's a loophole there too if we just have the song with only the chorus.
Okay, it's interesting. I mean, I've never, obviously a lot of wrestlers have their own theme songs that are just like theirs or generic kind of instrumentals, but you don't often see that kind of situation where a well-known and beloved music track by a well-known and established band is used, and then you have to kind of work out where and when you can or can't use it. So it's fascinating to me. And again, as a musician, I find it really interesting because obviously, obviously I've been a drummer for about 20 odd years now, and
wow.
so yeah, it's kind of seeing how these things work and learning about the music side of things is really fascinating to me. So yeah, that's really good to know, and I do hope you find a way to get around that and actually use it at every show you do, because it is such an impactful intro.
Yeah, I just recently got into like looking into like trademarks and copyrights and,
Mhm.
and stuff like that because we actually had to trademark our name.
Right.
It's I mean it's still kind of an ongoing process right now, but we're kind of in the middle of it, but it's kind of pain in the ass, honestly.
Mhm.
And I get why people do it, but yeah, it's definitely I assume it's even worse with music, but it's kind of a pain in the ass, the whole process.
I mean, and obviously with the copyright in your name, trademark in your name thing, and I hate to be the one to bring this one up, obviously, but there was the recent team of Shane McMahon and The Miz calling themselves co-besties, and he's the best in the world. And I was seeing and hearing a lot of that comparison from people who didn't know your background. And I mean, how does that sort of make you feel when you see something on national and international television, getting over like that, and you guys are going, but we've been this for years? Like, does that play on your mind at all, or?
Well,
I mean, when I first heard it, I kind of laughed it off, and just thought, well, we're doing something right.
Sure.
yeah, and there's always been rumors where it's like, WWE watches everything, or somebody in WWE watches everything, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. But then like you start seeing a couple things where it's like, okay, I literally just did that not too long ago, and now it's showing up on TV, and it's like, maybe they're right, I don't know, but like, I mean, people have the same ideas all the time.
Yeah.
And they just have a bigger platform to use it on.
And there's a really good chance. I mean, like, I'm not going to say that they totally got that idea from us. I mean, there's a chance that it's just coincidence. It does happen. It's not, unseen or unlikely for something like that to happen.
And I don't know how close they actually got to using Besties in the World, or if they actually said it. But as soon as I saw I do remember someone texted me or said something, and they were like, "Hey, I don't know what your plan is, but you may want to like try to trademark this." And I was already in the process anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, we started going through the trademark process like 7 months ago.
Oh wow, so well before.
Yeah, so we had it. We were ahead of the curve on that one, and I had put out a tweet once I had saw that they were kind of hinting towards saying Besties in the World. Yeah, I had put a tweet out saying something like, I'm just sitting here waiting for them to say that word so we can give them a cease and desist.
And almost immediately, it was like he put that out, and then like, next week or two, they were the co-besties.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay.
So that all-seeing eye is kind of still watching, and
I wish they kind of would have said Besties in the World, to be honest with you, because like I think we the first independent wrestlers to send a cease and desist to Vince McMahon. I think that would be cool. I mean, I realize that we probably would have been blackballed from the company for the rest of our lives, but I think it would have been worth it.
It's a shame, John, they didn't. Then you could have had that match at WrestleMania and just been like, right, we'll fight you for the trademark.
Yeah. Right, ladder match for the trademark.
Oh yeah. Shane's like 100-year-old ass jumping off the Titantron again.
I'll take it.
You know what? Yeah, I'll we'll take that.
I joke about
payday. We'll take that.
Honestly, if that Savage Garden entrance could have happened at Mania, because I'm going to this year's one and it's my first one, and that would have been amazing to have 80 million people in. I'm obviously exaggerating on the figures here, but singing along to that would have been very cool. But nonetheless, wherever we get to see you, actually over WrestleMania week, whereabouts are you guys wrestling?
Right now we are wrestling for the Fight Club Destiny show.
Okay.
And then we have the Pro Wrestling Revolver show, Pancakes and Pile Drivers. We're on that as well. I feel like there's one more that I'm forgetting, and that you have to forgive me. I get hit in the head a lot, but
that's okay.
I feel like there's another one too, but I can't think of it at the moment.
Off the top of my head, I can't think what it is, but I feel like we have another one that Friday.
We can always usually what I'll do in these situations is put like Fact Talk at the top of the screen, and we'll have a little banner there that says this is where you guys are wrestling or something like that. We'll fill in the blanks. So
perfect.
Yeah, so no worries on that score. We'll cover you. It'll all be fine.
Unless, of course, the company that we were supposed to be working for gets butthurt by it and debooks us. So
yeah. Maybe I shouldn't put it then.
No, it's okay. It's not that big a deal.
Cool. Oh man. So I mean, we briefly touched upon your previous names. Do you want to take us through those?
Oh man.
Yeah. We have quite a few.
Okay. Hit me with them.
We were Team Lightning Strike very, very briefly. I think we only used that like once or twice.
I feel like twice.
That was like a backup name because we were originally, our first name ever was the Sex Bombs, and that's not like acceptable on family-friendly shows, so we had to use something else as well.
Off of Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, I was going to say, how is a Scott Pilgrim reference not family friendly? That's crazy.
Yeah,
we're just big Scott Pilgrim fans.
Oh,
yeah,
who isn't, right?
We actually had one company like, oh, you're the sex, but like, I love your work, this, that, or the other, but you can't use your name. And we're like, oh, okay.
Come up to us asking us how we came up with that name. They're like, oh, it's such a unique name, and then we're like, oh, it's stolen.
Yeah, we definitely stole.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, I read back through and I was like, there's no way they ever got away with ripping that off from Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, we haven't.
A couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, more like we used that was probably our longest rating one.
Was that like
Ultimate Besties in the World? I think.
Yeah, was that like 3 years, wasn't it? I think according to what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
feel like
crazy.
from like 2011 up until 2013, 2014,
Wow.
something.
It didn't stick, thank God.
Mm.
Uh,
You'd have been
we were
screwed for
also,
merch.
also weren't really, we were like on and off tagging.
Mm.
Like not everybody used us as a tag team at that time either.
Right.
Okay.
So it wasn't like we were using it a whole lot. It didn't, I think that's the reason why it didn't really, stick to,
Sure.
and it was more of a blessing in disguise.
Oh man. So Sex Bob-ombs didn't stick, and so then after that, now if I've done my research right, you were Cobra Kai Dojo, which again,
Yeah.
movie reference from Karate Kid, clearly.
Yeah, that was
Right.
another ripoff. That actually wasn't our doing. It was the promotion that wanted to call us that.
Really? Okay. That's
Yeah, they came up with it. They wanted to call us Cobra Kai Dojo. I don't know why we didn't put up with a fight over it, because I really wanted to get away from the Sex Bombs just
Yeah.
because of the copyrights and stuff like that, obviously. But I don't know. I guess we didn't put up a fight because it was just for there. It was just that one show, and then there was a couple other shows that used us as Cobra Kai Dojo just because they couldn't use Sex Bombs. We spelled it different. I don't know if that matters, but
right. Yeah,
we
because
spelled
you
it A-N-C.
yeah. Because I mean,
That we were almost they're actually going back and forth on calling us since we're from St. Louis and it's abbreviated STL.
mhm.
They were just going to call us STL for Sweep the Leg.
Ah,
it's still
okay.
the same, it would still have like the same Karate Kid undertones. And the really cool thing about it was they were real close to bring in William Zabka, the Johnny Lawrence, real close on having him come in and managing us
That's
for a
crazy.
show.
Oh, that how
Yeah,
cool
like-
would that have been?
Oh, it was amazing, and like they got all the way to him, and he kind of inquired on what he would be doing and this, that, or the other, and they filled him in, and he was like, "Oh, that's really awesome and everything, but that's not kind of the stuff that I want to do." So I appreciate you guys thinking of me, and good luck in the future. But it got as far as him inquiring on what he was doing. So
Wow, that's really close, man. And oh, what a shame that he didn't follow it through and sweep the leg.
right.
So then from Cobra Kai Dojo, was there any other names that bridged the gap between that and Besties?
Yeah, we had the fantastic, awesomely name of the Blood Brothers at one point.
Nice. Okay.
That was also given to us. That was not by choice. We even had to change because it was for when we were with NWL again.
Oh, okay.
They were on TV. They were trying to be. They were essentially trying to do what AEW is doing now.
Sure.
They just, I don't know, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. But they had TV deal and stuff like that, so they couldn't use, real music. So they had to
Right.
everything was custom. They came up with characters. They trademarked everything so
Wow.
that they even changed our names. My name was Matt Grundy. He was Davey Gibson, and we
Oh
were the
my
Blood
God.
Brothers. I think that only lasted maybe 3 or 4 months,
Yeah,
and they let us go back to our real names.
I was gonna say I can see why. Like,
Yeah,
jeez.
because they were trying to do it in two different markets, the Kansas City and St. Louis side. Like
Oh, okay.
we were popular in the Kansas City side,
Mhm.
but like we're way more popular in the St. Louis side. So when people saw that we had our names changed, they were like, "These aren't the guys that like." That we would get chants for Besties in the World and like our actual names when we're trying to go out there and portray something else, and it just didn't work that great.
Yeah, it's got to be tricky.
Yeah, and then I think that the only other name that we used besides that was very blandly just Vega and Fitchett, because I think we only used that twice because we were like, we're never gonna tag again.
Oh man. So has there ever been a period where you guys, because you mentioned briefly that you did get booked as singles wrestlers? What's your preference? Do you prefer tagging or prefer singles or both?
I prefer tagging now.
Mm.
I mean, we've been doing it for so long now that anytime I get booked in a singles match, I almost get anxiety because I'm like, I
Wow.
don't remember how to do this.
Yeah, I'm more the same way. Like, I don't get really like anxiety, but it's more or less like, well, I hope my cardio is okay because I don't have anybody to tag out to.
Oh, God, cardio's been coming up a lot actually with and Dave Conrad mentioned it last week. He was saying like when he first started wrestling because he was doing amateur wrestling and things like that, but he said his cardio was the thing that really let him down early on. And like, you know, what sort of training do you guys go through to keep your cardio up?
Oh man, just treadmill, squats, pretty much just a lot of running is all I do.
Yeah, I don't get so much. I mean, the ring training that we get is usually when we're at shows. Unfortunately, I don't think we've been banned from our local school, but
I have.
well, he has. Maybe not so much me, but I just don't get a chance to go down there as much as I'd like. But usually it would be in ring training. That's the best cardio because that's most like what we're doing in the ring on the weekends. But I try to do as much hit training, high intensity interval training as much as I can, and then just basically just lifting weights. I throw a lot of deadlifts and jump ropes and medicine to get my cardio.
Okay, cool. We did lose you a little bit there. But obviously, yeah, you're saying about throwing medicine balls and kind of high intensity. So
Yeah, the high intensity interval training and just like deadlifts and jump rope and medicine ball slams. That's kind of where I get my cardio at.
okay, cool. So with what was it? High intensity interval training.
Yeah, so with that, it's like just like a basic formula. Like if you want to do it on a treadmill,
Yeah.
you do. Um, so you'll sprint for like a minute, or like if you're a beginner, like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So you do sprinting for 30 seconds, and then you dumb it down. Like for the next 30 seconds, you just do a walk,
Oh,
and then
okay,
when
cool.
that 30 seconds is up, you go back to sprinting again, and
Right.
you do that for however many intervals that you want to do. I usually do about 15 minutes if I'm on a treadmill.
Oh, that's cool, man. That sounds actually really good because it kind of reminds me of playing cricket where you do a lot of short burst running and then you have a little bit of a wait and then you have another short burst where you're sprinting and kind of just it's really good for the breathing, for the cardio. But yeah, like I've never I don't even think I know a guy called Jim, let alone let alone ever set foot in one. So I'm hardly the best person to talk about fitness, but I'm trying to learn, trying to get better. So, is there any tips you'd give for like our listeners and myself who perhaps, we're not necessarily professional athletes or whatever that want to get fitter and, there's those New Year's resolutions in January. Like, what's the best advice you give to someone that wants to get in shape?
I guess it just depends on what you're looking to do. But you can never go wrong with lifting weights. Like no matter what, just you want to lift weights because it doesn't. It obviously it makes you overall fitness better and like it gives you the muscle mass that you're looking for as long as you're doing it right. But it also gives you cardio. And people don't realize that like you can get cardio from the weights just by weightlifting, depending on like how you do your breathing and how intensive your sets are when you do them. But like you can never go wrong with just weightlifting.
Okay, cool.
But on top of that, like the high intensity interval training, that's um, I I don't know like I'm not obviously a professional like I do I have classes that I teach but I'm not an end all be all but like I'd say as far as cardio like if you want to do cardio based high intensity interval training is where it's at.
Okay, nice. And so obviously, like we've talked about WrestleMania, we talked about that week and where you guys are wrestling. Whilst you're in New York and New Jersey, are you going to get a chance to take in any shows while you're there, or will it just be packed out with bookings and media?
Uh,
I'm sure we'll see some shows.
Yeah,
We did last year, so
we usually the last couple years, like I think last year was your first year you went, right?
yeah.
Like I've done this a few times, where I'll go and just watch the shows and hang out with friends that I haven't seen in a while,
Okay, cool.
in between the shows that I'm on.
Hmm.
But I think, like I said, we have the little less than a handful of shows, and then we have. I think we have like a shoot interview or two that we're gonna end up doing
Okay.
uh, for high spots. I can't, not guaranteed, but I think we're gonna do another Egos Amigos at some point.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, they're always good fun.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, are there any particular shows you'd like to get to? Like, obviously, Ring of Honor and New Japan are doing their G1 Supercard at MSG, and there's a lot of other shows going on. Rev Pro are in town. Like, I think everyone's pretty much in town. So, who do you want to see?
Man,
I don't know, honestly. I mean, I don't think we're gonna really go out of our way to go see something. If we stumble upon it, some friends let us in the back door or something like that, then we'll watch.
yeah, we usually just kind of fly by the seat of our pants. Like if it's like, oh hey, we're in this area and this show is right across the street, you want to go to it? Like, oh yeah, cool. We have a couple hours to kill.
Nice. So, obviously, we've looked at the shows you want to see. So you mentioned there that your friends will let you into some shows. Who in particular are you looking forward to meeting up with in New York while you're there?
We're both really good friends with Ricky Shane Page.
Nice.
Obviously, like our England brethren, like Kid Lycos and Chris Brooks and Kyle Fletcher and Mark
Nice.
Davis, all those boys.
They're all fantastic wrestlers as well.
Oh yeah, they're amazing wrestlers, amazing people. Like just overall, just good dudes. So
Yeah, fantastic.
and I don't want anybody to take offense if we don't name them, but
Sure.
I mean, there's usually quite a few people that we're looking to see, especially if we don't get to see them very often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think they'll probably be hanging around the Rev Pro show if I've read my cards correct. So you might
Yeah,
get
and
to
more I think about, we'll probably go and hang out at that Rev Pro show to hang out with all of our UK buddies that we don't get to see all the time.
Nice. What was speaking of obviously UK guys, what was your take on the high stakes main event, Pac versus Will Ospreay? What an insane headline match.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was a really good match.
Yeah, that match was awesome, and it blew my mind that it's never been done before.
Yeah, that was insane. Like, I didn't realize they'd never faced each other before until one of the guys near me in the crowd said, "I can't believe that," and it just sort of rippled through everybody around us. So, like, obviously they're now tagging in the New York show. You know what?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, did you not? Oh, okay, yeah. So they obviously had the incident with the run in at the end and the time limit draw and all that sort of stuff, and that's now trickled over into a tag match at the Rev Pro show in New York. So because I think it was born out of mutual respect between Pac and Will. So
Very.
Because you went up against Will, didn't you, at the OTT show just after High Stakes?
Yeah, at OTT it was Scotty Davis and Will.
How was that facing off against Will Ospreay? Have you wrestled him before, or?
No, that was a first time for us too.
Okay.
That as soon as they announced it, we were like, "Oh, okay, that's this is pretty high profile match, so that's cool." I mean, obviously, Will works all over and is a mainstay at New Japan, so it's you always, whenever you get in a ring with guys like that, you obviously want to be able to go out there and impress not just the fans, but make a lasting impression on the wrestlers themselves. So we kind of came in with the mindset that we wanted to steal the show, and just have that moment at OTT where it was like, there's no way that we can't have these guys back.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you guys go into every show with that mindset, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially now where it's like we've kind of not necessarily like cut our bookings, but like we don't like the stuff that we used to take where we would consider it like enhancement shows. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go here and work on this, or go here and work on this. Um, we don't usually have those type of shows anymore. Like, but the shows that we are doing are have quite a bit of buzz. So that's always nice to have.
Yeah, I can well imagine. So is there anywhere in particular or any opponent that what's your sort of dream match kind of scenario? Where would you want to be and who would you want to face?
Oh,
I'd say CCK and Aussie Open.
Nice. Triple threat?
No, 1-on-1.
Cool.
No,
Each one.
yeah, because we've done we've never wrestled CCK, any version of CCK,
Wow.
and we've done the triple threat thing with Aussie Open, and we kind of want that singles tag, that just straight up tag match. And I think one big one for me, at least, and I don't know if Fitchett will agree or not, but whether or not he's retired or coming back, or I don't know what's happening, but I'd love to get in there with Motor City Machine Guns.
Oh,
just once.
Yes, that would be a classic, instant classic. I think your styles would mesh so well.
I think that, and this isn't a shot at Young Bucks. I don't want anybody to think that, but I think a lot of tag teams want to be the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
For me at least, it's more I was not, and I love the Young Bucks. I think they're great, and I think a lot of their whatever they're doing, it's obviously working.
Sure.
But Motor City Machine Guns, like that was my team, like throughout, even 2005, 2006 when they first started. That was the goal. That was what I wanted to mold. Like, not necessarily be exactly like, but that there's a lot of influence there.
Sure.
And I think the Young Bucks may even say the same thing, to tell you the truth.
If I ever get to speak to them, I'll ask them that very question. That'd be the day. But you never know. Never say never, as they say.
Absolutely.
So were you watching a lot of because they were in TNA, weren't they, along with like Beer Money and all those guys? Were you watching a lot of TNA throughout those periods, or what sort of wrestling were you watching? Both of you that influenced you the most.
I've been watching a lot of like old Ring of Honor stuff. I like going back and watching a lot of those because before I became a professional wrestler, like the only thing I knew was WWE or
Sure.
anything that was on TV. I didn't really know a whole lot about the indies, so I missed a large portion of all those great Ring of Honor matches. So like I get to go back and watch those, and then a lot of them are first time viewings for me stuff. So I watched a lot of that. I watched a lot of New Japan, some of the new stuff, some old stuff. Yeah, things like that.
For me, I was growing up. I was a big I was WWF through and through,
Yeah.
And then I found out what ECW was.
Nice.
And absolutely loved it. And that everything kind of blossomed from there. Like I went into like tape trading and trying to get like old Super J cups, and my first indie tape was it was a 6-man tag with Amazing Red and the SATs versus Quiet Storm, Brian XL, and shit, for the life of me, I get the last guy's name, but that was a CZW show that I picked up, and then that branched off into IWA Mid-South, and then Ring of Honor shortly after, and I don't know. I've always had my I've always tried to watch as much wrestling as possible. So
Yep.
those time periods with TNA, like the Wednesday pay-per-views I watched, and then when they started moving to TV, I'd watch, and I just try to get as much as I could. And then and nowadays, like, I'll watch New Japan, and like Fitchett said, I'll watch some of the old Ring of Honors that I haven't seen, or I remember being like, oh man, this match blew my mind, or whatever. But most recently, I've been kind of on a Noah kick because I'm a huge fan of Nakajima.
Nice. Yeah, that's. I've got to admit, I don't watch as much Noah as I'd like. Obviously, trying to fit everything in
it's
is insane, but
so much wrestling.
yeah, that's the thing with with Japanese shows. Like obviously with New Japan, with Noah, all those promotions, even down to the Joshi shows, it's 99% wrestling. Like we were saying this before, I think on the Fans Roundtable episode, we were talking about Wrestle Kingdom, and it never felt like 6 hours because you're just match to match to match to match. There's no fluff in between.
Right.
I mean, have you guys been out to Japan much, or do you take in? You know, obviously you watch a lot of it, but have you actually been out there and wrestled a lot, or?
No, not as of yet. That's a big goal of ours.
Mm,
So hoping sooner than later. But we've been approached, but nothing materialized off
right.
of it.
So would that have been New Japan that approached, or are you allowed to say?
I wish it. I wish it was. I would have been a little. I don't know. Can we say anything? Can we just talk about it? Say who it was?
No, probably.
Nah, we'll keep that one. Yeah, sorry.
On the borderline of a
I-
scoop.
We'll put it out in the universe that we want
Yeah.
to go to Japan, but hopefully that like again sooner than later.
Cool. Well, I know Kevin Kelly's obviously related to Rev Pro through commentary with Andy Simmons and that, so hopefully he'll be checking this out and give you guys the nod. And I'm really pushing my luck with him. So, but yeah. Oh well, I hope you guys do get to go to Japan because it is a fantastic place and wrestling is so beloved out there. I think you guys would fit in really well, especially if we get that karaoke entrance thing for you.
Right. Yeah, like I said, Japan's a real big goal of ours, and like watching it, you can tell just how beloved wrestling is over there, and it really kind of keeps you going a little bit. It gives you a goal to reach for, because I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on the American fans, but a lot of them are very entitled, and they're not like the UK fans or the Japanese fans.
So I mean, I said I wasn't going to ask any dangerous questions, but I have to bite on this one. By entitled? Sort of.
It's more or less with there, and don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm not trying to shit on American fans, because they're what made us. Like without them, we wouldn't be who we are.
Sure.
But it's not everybody, but it's more or less like I want you to make me a part of the show.
Right.
I want to say what I want, and they're like sitting on their hands, and you impress me, do something that impresses me, or whatever. It's never like, oh, I'm here, like I paid a ticket, I'm here to have a good time.
Yeah.
And just like forget all my worries and just have a great time watching a good to fantastic product.
Mm-hmm.
And just, it's never that. It's always, that's what I mean by entitled.
Got it.
It's everyone's a critic, and they just, it seems like a lot of people write about wrestling, but they hate it.
Yeah, what's that all about?
I don't know. Like I loved it growing up. I used to go to shows and I loved it, and obviously I still love it, or I wouldn't be doing it. But it's like I don't know what it is. It's like I don't know if it's like wrestling has become like just the cool thing to hate on, or what. Like, oh well, I need to talk about something, so I'll watch some wrestling and then complain to somebody about it.
It blows my mind because, like, I mean, much like you guys growing up, I lived and breathed wrestling.
Right.
And I still to this day I love it with as much passion as I did when I was a kid. And this whole reason I do this podcast and why I'm doing what I do is that I love the business and love wrestling. In fact, my first business, and I've stated this before, the influence on how I ran that business was after I watched the Vince McMahon DVD, the documentary on him, and just like loved the way he kind of did business and thought, oh, if I can do business like that, I'll be successful. And it worked, so like
Right.
wrestling permeates into everything I do, so to have people out there that purport to be, and I'm almost taking a shot myself, and I don't want it to come across like that, but purport to be wrestling journalists that either just crap on the business and have no desire to enjoy it whatsoever, or put out article after article and video after video that just go, according to Dave Meltzer, and then use his information. It's like,
Right.
you've clearly never watched the product and have no idea what you're talking about.
That and like you don't have your own opinion. You're
Yeah.
just regurgitating someone else's opinion.
It's like,
and I like I said, I don't want anyone to think that I'm taking shots at
Sure.
people, because I'm most definitely not. But it is stuff that I've picked up on. While obviously I've worked in the States for 12 years now, and it's real easy to pick up on now, especially going over to the UK and Ireland, and being able to, like, everyone just comes up to us and they're so nice, and they just want to have fun while you, like, at these shows, and it show, like, you can feel that, and we want to do better because of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned this at the top of the show. We English fans, like, growing up, obviously it was really difficult to watch WWF, WCW, all that stuff. We had our Saturday night wrestling, with Big Daddy, Giant Haystacks, all the classics, but we never really got to see the American stuff or the Japanese stuff. So when people came over, and even now, despite the internet or everything else, when people come over from the US and abroad, we love it. We're like, oh my God, these people have come to see us and perform for us, and we respect that and appreciate it. So it's kind of, it's definitely from a personal standpoint, like, and I think I mentioned to you guys, whenever I go to a show, I always try and make sure that I go and thank everybody that I can meet that's performed, because I think it's really important to show that respect and understanding of the business, and what people put themselves through for our entertainment. So
Yeah.
I think that's almost universal across British fans.
Yeah, and like, obviously it's small things like that are like that go a long way with people in general, but like especially wrestlers. Like, I don't want you to think that I'm entitled and say, oh yeah, I do this for you guys, so you should buy my stuff and bow down to me. It's nothing like that. It's, if you love me or hate me or what, indifferent towards me or us, just have a good time. Like, that's all I'm asking. Like, it feels like, it just feels like a lot of people that watch wrestling and try to critique it just hate it. And it's like, don't watch it anymore. Like, go find something else that makes you happy.
Yeah, sure. Well, that is the thing. I mean, there is far too much negativity in not just in wrestling, but in the world as a whole. Like, and something I always try and do at the end of these podcasts is finish on a positive, because I always like to finish on that uplift, So if there's anybody, and feel free both of you to pick different people or the same person or whatever, is there anybody out there that you want to give a shout out to that doesn't normally get that recognition and praise?
Give me a second.
Sure. Take your time.
Let's see.
Oh, Caitlin. I'll give Caitlin. I'll give Caitlin a shout out.
Yeah,
she does a lot.
Caitlin Lipinski. She's done a lot for us, and is actually working with Pro Wrestling Revolver now.
Oh, nice.
What's the other girl that works for Revolver too? Picked us up from the airport.
Melissa Foss.
Give her a shout out too.
Shout out to both of those ladies. They've been nothing but tremendous to us.
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff they don't have to do, just
That's
because they like doing it, I guess.
Yeah, and then wrestler-wise, I'll shout out to Thomas Shire.
Tommy.
He moved to St. Louis and kind of had to start over as far as bookings go, but he's a great wrestler and a great dude, so he deserves all the success that he can get.
And Everett Connors, I'll give him a shout out.
Yeah,
too.
Everett Connors, he's another one in the St. Louis area that could. Man, his charisma's off the freaking charts, man.
He is extremely entertaining, and if you can find any of his stuff on YouTube, do it, watch it, love it.
And if you find a promo of his on Facebook or YouTube, go watch it.
He's not on Twitter. You'll have to find him on Facebook.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's definitely something for me to be checking out, and our listeners as well. So we'll get all over that and start sharing it around, I'm sure. So, and speaking of social media, where can we find you guys on socials?
Go ahead, Vega.
All right.
That new Twitter handle.
So I was actually banned off of Twitter. So Davey Vega 85 is no longer my Twitter handle. It is at Panda Bear Vega.
What?
I have to be a little bit incognito.
Okay.
So Twitter doesn't ban me again. But you can find me there. That's my own account. Our joint account is at Besties ITW. Besties in the World. Besties ITW.
Oh man, you should hear his PayPal email account.
Let's not get into that.
I'm not gonna. It is a gem. I
Oh,
love
man.
seeing all these promoters asking for our PayPals, and I just look at them when Vega has to give his.
Oh no.
I start sweating.
Tell me off air.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Dirty Rook. Please don't send me a friend request on Facebook. I keep that very separate from wrestling. I keep that strictly friends and family.
Cool.
So just follow me on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and then my Instagram is actually Davey Vega 85 since Twitter.
You should probably change that over to.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to change it back over to Panda Bear Vega on my Instagram too. So.
Jesus Christ. So we've got a dirty rook and a panda. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Well, there's definitely some handles that we're not going to forget. So I'll put all the links in the description anyway, so people can find you easily. And yeah, obviously, thank you guys for joining us today. It's been an absolute blast talking to you, and wishing you every success going forward.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries at all. And obviously, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when we upload new videos. We're now producing weekly content, varied content, and that's all supported by your purchases over at smacktalk.co.uk. As I always say, everything you buy helps us produce more diverse and unique content. Follow us on Twitter at smacktalk_UK, not as memorable as Panda Bear. And yeah, we will see you on the next one.